So President Joe Biden has probably just heard the worst news that he could hear for 2024. With the presidential election just months away, reports are showing that the president may not be fit to serve. In fact, the question as to if he has dementia seems to have been answered. Now, does this serve as great news or a great excuse to avoid criminal charges? It does not, however, help in the 2024 presidential elections for sure. Hey guys, before we go any further, if you could just take 1 second and drop a quick like for the video, I really appreciate that. And I also want to thank you guys for always sharing these videos. It really does help out the channel. Appreciate you guys. So a recent decision to not file charges on the president regarding his mishandling of documents was a personal win for Biden. In fact, the win was short-lived because the report showed that Biden was a well-meaning old man with a poor memory. It also said that he had diminished faculties in advanced age, meaning that he probably doesn't remember even handling the classified documents to begin with. But this does not necessarily help his case for the elections. So the report was made by a special counsel member, Robert Hur, and was blasted by the president just hours after it was released. The president said that these people didn't know what the heck that they were talking about at all. But what actually happened, right? According to her, the memory of the president was just so hazy during just 5 hours of interview over 2 days that it would be almost impossible to convince jurors that he was aware of his mistakes. In fact, Hur added that if charged, the president's lawyers would just kind of point to his weak memory and mental state. Now, some critics were amused that it just took 5 hours of in-person interviews to confirm the president's cognitive challenges, even going so far as to say that the interview was cut short. In fact, it was cut into 2 days, meaning that he only had to endure like 2.5 hours per day. Now, for his part, the president hasn't focused on this issue outside of his initial remarks. The problem is that during a recent fundraiser, he confused the presidents of Mexico and Egypt. How the heck do you do that? Basically a gaffe that he just can't be having, as more and more questions about his cognitive abilities remain front and center in the minds of Americans. When asked if he should step aside and have someone else represent the Democratic Party, the president just pretty much said that he's the most qualified person to lead the United States. Do you agree? I don't know about this one. Now, in his defense, his aides say that despite what we see or what we hear in the public, they say that the president remains very sharp in private. Does this assure you that he's still fit to be in the office? I don't know about just being sharp behind closed doors. You know what I mean? Anyway, some argue that this is proof of a two-tiered system of justice. Now, if you guys remember, former President Donald Trump, he was charged for basically doing the same thing as President Biden. The key difference for the special counsel was that Trump seemed to remember his days as president. President Biden, on the other hand, doesn't even remember, much of his time as vice president. Hur included in the report that was during a 2017 recorded conversation between Biden and the ghostwriter for his book, it was very evident that Biden struggled to remember events during his term. This means that he could have had dementia for some time now, a risk that not many Democrats are very comfortable with. Medical professionals are also pitching in, and they're saying that it might be best for the president to just kind of take a mental competency test. So, Dr. Stuart Fisher, who's a primary care physician at a nursing hospital in the Bronx, said something doesn't quite seem right here. So, Fisher insisted that if this isn't a major mental issue, it's still something that should be disclosed to the public. Others, though, they're much more firm on what they want. So you got Representative Ronnie Johnson, who served as a physician to both Barack Obama and also to Donald Trump. He said that the president should undergo an actual cognitive battery of tests. These tests should be done objectively and be handled, and briefed to the American people. So the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, said that because of the president's schedule and his actions, a cognitive test is not needed. What do y'all think about that? I mean, seriously. So there was, however, an incident recently that, again, calls into question just how far back the president can recall. So President Joe Biden said that the problems at the borders where illegal immigrants continue to rush in should be solely pinned on former President Donald Trump. He says that Trump discouraging Republicans to pass a bipartisan bill is the sole reason as to why we have issues at our borders today. Now, the bill also includes $118 billion for foreign aid, which will primarily go to the Ukraine and Israel. We're not even going to talk too much about that. Simple fact of the matter is that President Joe Biden, he's trying to pin the blame on Donald Trump, and he's raising a few eyebrows, mainly because critics attest that the border issues escalated when he was voted into the White House. The GOP, though, they're not happy with President Biden. Besides trying to blame Trump, they're saying that he has all the power that he needs already right now. in order to control the border. That would be through executive order. That would be through executive action. However, it's something that the White House seems to have forgotten, among many other things. Now, the crisis at the borders, though, it's not being pushed by Republicans. Even Democrats are saying that it's now too much. In fact, 14 Democrats voted together with Republicans, believe it or not, to try and control the borders. This shows that even they are now tired of what's happening over there. But this isn't the case as we asked AOC. If you asked her, the bipartisan bill that includes border security is going to make things worse. She even went so far as to say that basically it would set the United States back by 100 years when it comes to immigration policy. She added that this is dangerous because it would give Republicans everything that they want on the border in exchange for temporary funds to the Ukraine and for Israel. But let's go ahead and get to the concern here, the real concern. So we talked about how this would fund Ukraine and Israel, but it's also set to include $650 million for a border wall. Not a lot of people are talking about this right now. And it's also going to be holding back the catch and release practice where illegal immigrants are released into the United States while they wait for their court dates. We also have to discuss how some find it rather odd that funding is available for illegal immigrants, even though the same cannot be said for homeless veterans, people who actually fought for our country. So this raised a very major concern for some, as hundreds of migrant families in the New York area, they're expected to receive more money for food compared to low-income residents who are receiving SNAP and EBT benefits. Now, I'm not really sure how you guys are going to kind of react to that one, but the city does have a new pilot program. So the goal is to give, get this guys, prepaid debit gift cards or prepaid debit cards to about 500 families. The cards under this particular program would have $12.52 per day, giving each recipient around $350 a month to be able to spend on food and baby supplies. $350 a month here, guys, right? Households in New York that receive SNAP benefits are eligible to receive up to $291 a month. This privilege is for low-income people, senior citizens, and disabled veterans or disabled individuals. Mayor Eric Adams, he's defending his decision, saying that the cards will actually function much like the SNAP benefits and EBT cards. He also went as far as to say that it's limited in what it can buy, since it can only be used exclusively in local bodegas, grocery stores, supermarkets, and convenience stores. Despite the price tag, Adams argues that this will actually be saving the city $600,000 a month somehow. Not really sure how that math works out, but yeah, that's what he's saying. He's also stressed that these are not like American Express cards that they can, people can kind of go crazy on. It's solely for food. It's solely for baby supplies. I understand that opinions vary. They differ when it comes to topics like these, but all I know is that America is facing a lot of problems. 2024 will definitely be one of the most interesting election years that you and I are ever going to see. So as always, I appreciate you guys being here. Thanks for hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.